I want you to know this: if you've ever been ghosted, you did nothing wrong. It hurts because you are an empath and you just need to feel and heal, right? They are not worth your time, so don't reach out, and most certainly do not allow them back in your life. You do not need to talk to them for closure. Your closure was them leaving your life. Adios. You were sincere and honest and authentic in the friendship, but they were not. When you thought that they were, it was all a front. And that's why it hurts you so much when you have been ghosted or are being ghosted, is because you were absolutely sincere in everything you did and said and felt in that friendship and a relationship. So you also thought that they were. When you find out they're not, first of all, it's kind of hard to believe, right? It's like, there's no way. Maybe they're going through a hard time, or maybe this was a bad day, or they're going to realize I did nothing wrong, or you know what I mean? You always think that there's got to be something else going on in their life. Everything's going to go back to normal. It's not going to, and most certainly never allow it to go back to normal. It sucks. It hurts. It's unexpected. It's confusing, but let them go. Feel and heal and move on, and never ever allow them back into your life again. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you for tuning in to Revive with Janna. Janna here. I know it's been a few weeks, right? It's been a couple weeks since I had an episode out, and I try not to skip very much. But summer hit, and I got caught just doing stuff around the house, more remodeling that I did myself. And, I took on bigger projects than I planned to, because I didn't know it was going to be a big project. I was like, oh, that won't take too long. Well, it did. And it was nonstop. My kids were with their dad for his 2 weeks in the summer. And, I thought, well, I could do this and, spend about a week doing house stuff while the kids are gone. It's really hard to do painting and specific things around the house, where some of these paints take, 12, 24 hours, some 36 hours to dry. It's really hard to do that with kids. 3 kids, right? So anyways, but I did in the meantime, however, I have a lot of topics that I came up with that I wanted to discuss. And, typically I'm able to record and stuff like that, but I was absolutely exhausted every night. My husband had a surgery that made it really hard for him to do things. It was on one of his arms, and so he needed help. And then we were able to spend time together. It's just been a lot, but I just wanted y'all to know why you haven't heard from me and or seen me in a few weeks. So that being said, I have a lot of topics I want to discuss, and so it was kind of hard to choose which one do I want to discuss tonight. And after looking through all of the different topics that I wrote down, what I do is I write down topics, and a lot of the times I elaborate, and some are meant to just be reels, some are just episodes, some are both. You get the drift. And I had a few I want to discuss, but tonight I want to talk about when a close friend ghosts you. I've had another episode about ghosting, but I want to elaborate even more on this one. This happens way too much amongst adults. It really, really does. And I'm absolutely baffled. I mean, I'm trying to think if I was ghosted in junior high or high school, I don't think I was. And it's like I'm 43 and fixing to be 44, and I've been ghosted more as an adult. So it's absolutely just mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it because you can't understand anything that you are not. You can't understand anything that you don't have the ability to do, that you've never done, you've never been. You don't understand you understand what it's like to be ghosted. Like, I understand what it's like to be ghosted. I don't understand what it's like to have the ability, that mindset it takes, which I'm meaning that in not a nice way. In other words, it takes a very limited, insecure mindset, a very unhealed mindset to be able to ghost someone, especially an adult, an adult that's able to ghost, right? So that's what I'm going to discuss. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, thanks for tuning in. As usual, you're going to see me looking down at my, all of my scribble scrabble, as I like to call it. So when a close friend ghosts you, it's really, really easy to, first of all, you don't think, oh, I've been ghosted. You're just kind of like, you're really thrown off. Now, notice I said when a close friend, when someone you're in a very close relationship with, it could be someone you're dating. Maybe you're engaged. It's a best friend. It's a close friend. It's a coworker who you consider a good friend. You name it, right? Maybe it's just one of your kids' friends' parents. Like, you name it. When someone ghosts you, it's always sudden. It typically is for absolutely no reason at all. So don't try to look for the reason, because I have found in my own experience and in speaking with my close friends about, when it's happened before, what I have found and learned is that oftentimes when you're ghosted, it is, sorry, there's a little gnat in my face. Sorry, if you're watching that on YouTube. When you're ghosted, it is typically for no reason at all. Um, Oftentimes it might be the most mundane thing that absolutely it makes it even more um, incomprehensible to think that that's what they ghosted me for. So I wanted you to know why that happens, right? Most people don't talk about the whys, right? You speculate, but you don't really know. Well, that's exactly what was going through my mind when I wrote all this the other night. Was people need to know why, because when I understand the whys, my brain, it's like there's a little filing cabinet up there, and I like to know the reasons for everything. And I've come to learn that sometimes I'm just not going to know. But in doing so, it does help me to dissect things in a sense of how can I help you? So if you're suddenly ghosted by someone you're very close with, here's why. You threatened them. You might not know how, but you did. You unknowingly stopped being a source of a supply for them. Maybe they were covert narcissists. You didn't know. Maybe you moved on in life. Maybe moved on in the sense of like where you were in the beginning of that friendship. Like, maybe now you've been promoted, you got a raise, you found love. Whatever it is, it made them uncomfortable. They're possibly a narcissist, which is why they needed another source of supply. Like I just said, you outgrew them, making them feel less than. You intimidated them. They could no longer feel comfortable in their negativity and trash talking. I found once I did, and like I wasn't a big trash talker. I absolutely love to people watch. I do love to um discuss things where it's like in a sense of like, man, can you believe that person did that to me a long time ago? Like, God, it's crazy, right? To let it go. I'm talking about people who sit around and they literally talk about every single person that they encounter. Maybe they're really nice to them, and as soon as they leave, they just shit talk them, talking about that. So, like, those are some good whys, right? And now I want you to know this, all right? When you have been ghosted, maybe you're currently being ghosted and it's driving you nuts, right? Maybe you don't realize it yet. How do you know if you're being ghosted? It's pretty damn easy. Number one, um, a sudden loss of communication. They're not returning their calls. Um, your usual frequencies of communicating and the way you do completely changed. So if you talk on the phone all the time and or text, now it's just sporadic texting. They go from like their usual way of texting. Maybe they're more elaborate in their messages or funny, or you have your little thing you do with sending funny memes, and all of a sudden they stop and it's very short, yes, no, cool type of responses. Um, maybe they're absolutely, I had this happen by someone who I once considered a best friend, covert narcissist, ended up finding out. She had the audacity to literally ghost me on social media, which is the most obvious thing. And that's when I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't even know what I did. And when I finally figured out what the reason was, it actually just made me just realize I don't need that as a friend in my life, right? It was something that happened with me, one of my kids, and I wasn't able to make it to something that I had paid for personally. And because I couldn't go, that person no longer cared about what happened to your kids. Oh my God, I'm sorry you spent all this money to go and you didn't get to go. Instead, that was the end of the friendship. Um, so just I want you to know this, if you've ever been ghosted, you did nothing wrong. It hurts because you are an empath and you just need to feel and heal, right? They are not worth your time, so don't reach out, and most certainly do not allow them back in your life. You do not need to talk to them for closure. Your closure was them leaving your life. Adios. You were sincere and honest and authentic in the friendship, but they were not. When you thought that they were, it was all a front. And that's why it hurts you so much when you have been ghosted or are being ghosted, is because you were absolutely sincere in everything you did and said and felt in that friendship and a relationship. So you also thought that they were. When you find out they're not, first of all, it's kind of hard to believe, right? You're like, there's no way. Maybe they're going through a hard time, or maybe this was a bad day, or they're going to realize that I did nothing wrong, or you know what I mean? You always think that there's got to be something else going on in their life. Everything's going to go back to normal. It's not going to, and most certainly never allow it to go back to normal. It sucks. It hurts. It's unexpected. It's confusing, but let them go. Feel and heal and move on, and never ever allow them back into your life again. My friends, that is so, so, so very important. It really, really is. Um, another thing to another way to look at this is that when you are ghosted, or if you've just been ghosted, I actually want you to actually think about that as a positive. That is actually a sign that you have done some sort of healing and leveling up. And when you did that and you leveled up, that threatened them. And they no longer see you as someone who makes them feel better about themselves, who they can be negative with. Now you shine a light on their insecurities and their limiting beliefs. You intimidate them some way. So think about that, right? Turn it into a positive. Remember, not everyone in your life is permanent. Many are just for a season or two, but they are always for a reason. So don't waste your energy on the why. They are no longer worth your time. Instead, put your energy on moving on and moving up. My friends, that is so very important. Um, I always, until I learned all this is, my wisdom speaking. I always continued to go after that friend, as I thought, well, they're going through something, really hard, and they need me. And, I gave them the space that they needed, but I was also just, they're going to come to their senses and everything's going to go back to normal and it'll all make sense. But it never did. And the last two times that happened, I, I didn't allow them back in my life when they wanted to. I just didn't. And honestly, it was the best thing I ever did. That last one, when it happened with a now an ex best friend, I went through a morning. I was so shocked. I was so hurt. I had just gone through a horrific divorce and betrayal, and it was so unexpected. And I thought, man, there's no way after everything I've been through that she's doing that to me. But it was honestly because of that I now have the wisdom I have to share with you. And when she reached out and wanted to be friends again, I was like, nah, no, thank you. And, just as she cut me out of her life, I had kept the door open. I didn't do the same things to her on social media she did to me, but guess what? Damn sure did after that. I don't like to play little childish games, and my energy is precious and sacred, and so is yours. You need to remember that. And by God, if you have the ability to not fuck people over, and you have the ability to not want to ever make them hurt, then you also deserve that back. And if someone can't give that to you back, if they have the ability to ghost you, ignore you, put you down, or treat you like shit, they don't deserve you to fight for them. They don't deserve you, period, at all in their life. And it's going to hurt and it's going to suck because you're not the shitty person. You did nothing wrong. And it's absolutely confusing. It's confusing and it hurts and it throws you for a loop and it makes no sense. And you just want your friend back. And I get it. But you know what? That right there, as soon as they ghosted you and did that to you, that's when they showed you their true colors. So be confident knowing that you always were showing them yours because you're a good, honest person. But my friends, if anyone has ghosted you or are ghosting you, that's it. They don't get a second chance. If they did it once, they'll do it again. I promise. All right. That's all I got for today. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions or you want to share an experience you've had with ghosting, please do so. You can email me or you can DM me on Instagram. I will happily share your question and or comment or story right here on this podcast. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day.